Is it? Hi, welcome.
Hi.
I'm Samantha.
Hi, I'm Yvonne. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Okay, so today we're going to talk a little bit about maybe some of your family backgrounds, the progression to where you are now, and maybe occupation, something like that.
Okay.
Can we start off with giving a little bit of background information about ourselves?
Yeah, I'm not sure what kind of background.
Just verify maybe your name.
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
I'm Yvonne Mulhern, and I work here at the library at Charlton. I am 42 years old. I'm single. I don't have kids. I have a sibling. He lives out of state, and I've been working here for about 7.5 years.
7.5 years?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and myself, I'm a social work student, and we're going to be meeting for about 25 minutes.
Okay.
And thank you for your transparency.
Sure.
Okay, so you said you do have a sibling,
Mm-hmm.
and is it a male?
Yeah, I actually have two. I have a brother who lives in California. He's almost 38. And then I have an older sister, a half-sister, on my dad's side. She converted to Judaism. She's from New York originally, but she moved to Israel with her husband a few years ago, and they're raising their kids out there. She's about 47.
47?
Yeah, I actually met her for the first time in about 22 years over the summer. I hadn't seen her since then because she and my dad don't communicate. So
Really?
yeah, so that's kind of awkward, but it was nice to see her again. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So she converted to Judaism?
Yeah, her mom was Jewish, and her mom passed away a while ago, and I'm not sure what brought it on, but maybe about 10 years ago or so she decided to become more active, and she went on a Jewish dating site, and she met her now husband, and they decided they wanted to move over there, so she learned Hebrew, and I'm not sure, they're not Orthodox, but she is really strict with her diet. She only eats kosher food. She checks every single thing, and she keeps her hair covered, and so she's a little more strict with her dress and so forth than she was, before she converted.
Oh, okay, so there's definitely a cultural shift for her?
Oh yeah, and she's got 2 kids. They're 7 and 10, and they had never been out of the country until we saw them in New York over the summer. So they're Israeli, and they grew up there, and they know Hebrew and English, and so I guess you wouldn't consider them Americans. So yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
So does anybody else in your family know Hebrew or anything like that besides?
No, she's the only one.
Really?
Yeah, she's the only one. Yeah, my dad grew up Catholic. He went to Catholic schools, and my mom's Catholic as well. They don't really practice anymore, but they grew up Catholic. So my mom was bilingual. She knows Spanish and English, but no Hebrew. So.
Okay, so she's bilingual?
Yeah, she was born in New York, but she grew up in Puerto Rico, and she came out here to the mainland to go to college in the 60s. She went to Indiana University and NYU, which is where she met my dad. But yeah, English is her second language, and it's really good. She was a teacher for a while, and I think she's learning Portuguese too. But yeah, she wanted to go to school out here, and she felt like there was more opportunity. And back then in the 60s, it was more, I guess Puerto Rico was more restrictive. She would have been expected to stay home and get married and not really have a career. And she wanted to do what she liked to do, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she was like, forget that. So she came out here.
So
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a little bit more liberating to be able to make those choices for herself.
Yeah, that was kind of a big deal back then because, it was still the 60s, and she came out here and her English was good, but it wasn't her first language, and she was by herself, so I imagine it was kind of scary for her at first, but she got her master's and she got part of her doctorate, which is when she met my dad, but she didn't finish it. He finished his, she didn't finish hers. But, so yeah, she was kind of unusual back then. That wasn't something that a lot of women did, so.
I'd imagine it was probably really tough, especially being a woman at that time. trying to get
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But
So-
she seemed to make it really far for the time period.
Yeah, she's always she's always been really big on education, and it was always, my brother and I were always going to college. There was never any, like, if you want to, it was like, no, you're going.
So which one do you want to go to opposed to that?
Yeah, there
If you
was
wanted
no, that was just the expectation, yeah.
Okay, so it was already kind of influenced, or maybe not forced onto you guys, but kind of expected.
Right, yeah. I mean, we both wanted to go, so it wasn't a big deal, but I don't like to think of how it would have gone if we had said no. It wouldn't have gone well. So, yeah.
Okay. So does your brother have any family?
He's been married twice, and divorced twice. So no, so is my mom and so is my dad. Anyway, it's just me, sola, no divorces. Anyway, yeah, no, he doesn't have any kids. He's dating someone now. I mean, he's open to doing it, but he's not like in a rush. You know, I mean, if it happens, it happens. But I mean, I'm lucky that way because a lot of parents, if they had a daughter my age that wasn't married, you know, they'd be like, come on, where's the grandkids? And neither of my parents care about that stuff.
Well, that's good, so there's no pressure for you.
Yeah, which it wouldn't matter. I mean, it's still like, sorry. But yeah, at least they're not pressuring me and they're not pressuring him like, hey, where's the grandkids and when are you going to settle down? And so they're real nice about not doing that.
Well, that's good, because I think that's like one of the more difficult conversations to have, especially being a parent that maybe has kids.
Right.
And then like expecting that to keep going. I think maybe since your family, like your mother and father, like made those steps to actually be educated, like so early on, and now they're just maybe pushing those societal like ceilings.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't think they would mind, but they're definitely, like my mom's even told me she doesn't want to babysit, which, okay. And my dad's pretty, he's single. He didn't remarry after my parents got divorced, and he's just very, you know, he's not very sentimental, so he doesn't, I honestly don't think he cares.
Was that difficult for you, the whole divorce process?
Oh yeah, it happened when I was, about 12. So not really a great age.
There's a lot of changes going on.
Yeah.
Internally.
Yeah. Well, what happened was when I was 12, they announced that they were getting a divorce, and then my dad moved out a few months later, and then my mom started dating before he even moved out of the house. So that was just really confusing and weird to have a mom that was dating. And then she met my now stepdad, and they got married like that year, like maybe 7 or 8 months later, which felt really fast. And then the next year after that, he was in the Air Force, and we were in California, and they got transferred to Nebraska. And my brother and I didn't go with her because we just didn't want to move. We kind of had all our friends, and we didn't want to move, but it was really hard because, of course, she wanted us with her, and so there was like a big custody battle, and it was pretty unpleasant. But you know, that was a long time ago, and we get along fine now. I feel kind of bad because I actually wasn't very nice to my stepdad. I was only 13, and he moved in our house, and all I knew was that he wasn't my dad, and so I wouldn't talk to him or look at him, or like even I had like a little diary, and I would just, I didn't even want to write his name. That's like how whacked out I was. Like I'd be like, asterisk is here.
That guy.
Yeah. It is here. Yeah, I was so like, rah, I hate you. But he was perfectly nice. He's very nice. And yeah, he's really nice. Him and my mom have been together for almost 30 years. And they're a good match. So it worked out. But
so now you see it a little bit differently?
Yeah, I mean, I was a teenager. I didn't know any better.
Yeah. So that was maybe one of your coping strategies, like writing the diary?
Yeah, yeah, I mean.
Were there any others?
I was a pretty good kid, so, so not really. I was interested in acting for a while because I guess like when I was at home, my mom, I was pretty angry and she didn't want to hear any of that. So I didn't have anything to do with my anger except like I would take acting classes, and like there, if I got really angry, it was like, oh, good job.
You're so talented.
So yeah, where did all that anger come from? You know, so that was a good outlet, and I like read a lot and wrote a lot of stuff. Like I would write stories and stuff.
I love that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I do that a lot too.
So like creative, I mean honestly a lot of the time I would pretend that like it wasn't happening and I would just, you know what I mean, I'd be in a book or I'd be writing a story or because real life wasn't so great. But I mean it helped. So yeah, it seems like so long ago, but you know when you're a kid everything goes so much slower and it just, you don't have any control over what's going to happen and it's so much more stressful.
Especially like for me personally, since I'm still trying to grow up. That's definitely one of those things that everything that happens, every event that I am not in control of seems like the biggest thing in the world, the biggest disaster.
Yeah.
And it's been difficult for me trying to figure out what's the most appropriate way to cope, especially with the demands of school, but I feel like little steps.
That's funny that you mentioned control because, oh heck, it's already up there anyway. This is just your teacher, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well the reason I mentioned is, it's funny that you said control because last year, you know, when the tornadoes and stuff were here, I've never been through a tornado or sirens or anything, and I'm in an upstairs apartment, and so I had to like climb in the bathtub and be like, ah, you know, and luckily nothing happened, obviously, but ever since then, I just kind of have a thing about tornadoes now, and part of it's the control thing, I think. Like, I really think, you know, I mean, of course you can't control certain things, but just
not knowing what to expect.
Yeah.
And then
Yes, and when I was in California, of course, out there's earthquakes, and earthquakes are worse because tornadoes you usually get a warning, but earthquakes it's just like, oh hey, everything's shaking, oh my god. So yeah, I just kind of have a thing about natural disasters, and I hadn't thought about it, but I really think that's part of the whole control thing, because you know, all this crappy stuff kind of happened, pardon my language, you know, my parents split up, although I could kind of see that coming because they hated each other. My parents split up, my dad moves out, my mom starts dating, she gets married, he moves in, they move across the country, like that happened in less than 2 years, so I was just kind of like, what's happening? And then I was living with my dad and my brother, and I loved them both very much, but at the time they weren't very nice to live with. They were kind of jerks, and they were both really sexist, so I'm like a real big feminist now. Because of
that fire.
Well, they were pretty bad. Like, we would go places, and they would, like, comment on women's bodies and stuff, like, in front of me, and I'd have to ask them not to stop it, or not to stop it, I'd have to ask them to stop it, and they would actually get irritated with me, like, how dare I ask them not to comment on women's body parts. And, yeah, they were pretty obnoxious. I mean, they're nice now, but that's now. You know, like,
now.
I really could have used it back then, but you know, what are you gonna do? So, I didn't mention this earlier. This would probably be of interest. About 20 years ago, actually, like almost exactly 20 years ago, my dad, he was walking down the street at night, and he was mugged and assaulted.
Really?
And almost killed. Yeah. He's from New York. I'll just say that. So he kind of has an attitude, so no one really knows what happened because he doesn't remember it, but I'm guessing, you know, he probably gave the guys like a hard time, and one of them had a baseball bat, and they basically beat him up and like left him there bleeding in the street, and the only reason he didn't die was an off-duty cop was walking by and saw him and called it in, and so he got to the hospital, and he was in a coma for a few days. And he wasn't living with my brother. My brother was like 20 or so at the time and had moved out. And the way my brother found out was my dad hadn't called in a few days, and my dad's very like, let me call you 5 times a day. So he's like,
just so you know I'm still here.
Yeah, and this was before like cell phones were really a thing. So he couldn't just be like, hey Dad. So he was like, well, let me stop by and see what's going on. And there was like a note on the door that was like, by the way, he's at this hospital in this emergency room. And my brother was like, oh my God. So anyway, so yeah, and then I was here in Texas, so I like flew over there to see him, and it was really weird because he didn't even recognize me at first. Like, I brought my mom with me, and he hadn't seen my mom in 10 years. He recognizes my mom. He didn't recognize me. He was just like, oh hey, and I was like,
I'm not the nurse.
And then my mom and I had the same name, so he's like, oh hey Vaughn, and you know, and I was just like, oh. But anyway, long story short, he's a lot better now. He was really lucky. Once the swelling went down, he was basically okay. He had to go to rehab and stuff. The only thing was he, you know, because they beat him up and stuff, he lost most of his hearing in his left ear. But other than that, I mean, he's really, considering how bad it could have been, I mean, he's basically normal now. The only thing that's different is he has lost his sense of direction. He used to have an excellent sense of direction and would never get lost, and now he has to like use maps and be more careful.
Yeah.
But that's not so bad.
I'm naturally bad with directions. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's weird though is he was kind of abusive before this happened. Just verbally, he was sort of a bully, and occasionally he would get physical. But it was mainly verbal. But anyway, the reason I even bring it up, God, you sound like I'm on a reality show. Anyway,
No, you're good.
So, the reason I bring it up is that after he got mugged and stuff, his personality was still him, but it was like a much softer, kinder him. And he's not like that at all. He was almost a completely different person. And my brother, who's really blunt and should never be a diplomat, he actually told him to his face, he was like, yeah, you were a real a-hole before, but you're much nicer now.
Yeah, how did he react to that?
Now, after your brain damage, you're much better now. Because he
We like
literally,
you better now.
yeah, he literally had brain damage, and I wasn't there. Unfortunately, I missed that. He didn't appreciate hearing that, and my brother he just says stuff. But the thing is, it's true. It's just like I told my brother, you know, just think it like I do. You don't have to share every thought.
Take that breath first,
Yes.
and then if it's still there.
We all know that he's nicer now. You don't have to tell him to his face. But yeah, he basically was like, yeah, you know, like if you were still the same person, I don't know if Yvonne and I would still talk to you because you were kind of a jerk. And it was just like, don't be that honest. You know?
Not that honest.
Yeah.
It's too soon. No, well, yeah, that's definitely, that probably would have been really difficult for me to see that contrast all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
Being like, okay, it's been a while, I've been in Texas.
Yeah, I mean,
Who are you?
it's still him. It's still him. He still has like all kinds of quirks and stuff because his parents were, his dad was an alcoholic and his mom had mental illness issues. And so he didn't have a great background. Like, I say he was abusive, but compared to his parents, he was actually pretty great. But yeah, I mean, it's still him, and he's still kind of, what's the word? He's very high maintenance. But he's like, he would never yell, you know what I mean? Like, I know he's not going to yell at me or do anything. But it's weird because a couple of years ago, I went back there to visit, and my dad's in his 70s. That was the other thing about the whole mugging and beating thing. He was going to get a job in Hawaii. So he had this week window where he didn't have any insurance. That's when he got mugged. So you can imagine what the hospital bills were like. So it like wiped out his savings and his retirement. And the only reason he was able to get decent treatment was he sort of worked in the medical field, like with lawyers and, you know, people like that. So he knew a nurse that like got him into good treatment and helped him out, and she had power of attorney and stuff. But yeah, he's in his 70s now, and he still has to work. He doesn't have hardly any money, and it makes me feel bad because it makes me feel like, you know, I should probably be helping him more and stuff. But anyway, my point, because I had one, was people would be jerks to him. Like, they would talk to him on the phone, and then he'd go in person for a job interview. And another thing was the industry he was in was really small, and when they found out he had a brain injury, he couldn't get work. What he did was he would help people that got injured find another job. So like if you...
It's kind of ironic.
Yes.
Very
Yes.
ironic.
Right. So like if you, I don't know, lost a limb or you know, you got arthritis or something and you couldn't like be a typist anymore, he would help you find another job, and he would calculate like your lost earnings and stuff. Yeah, it was ironic. And then when word got out, and he used to testify in court, and then when word got out, it's like, oh, well, he's got brain damage, he can't do any work, and so he couldn't get a job, and so he ended up doing security guard jobs, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just he has 3 degrees, you know.
Yeah.
And it kind of...
He has 3 degrees.
Yeah, he's got a bachelor's and a master's and a doctorate.
Yeah.
And it just kind of broke my heart. It was just like, you know, he did everything right, and he kind of got screwed. But on the other hand, he gets up in the morning, he's like an athlete, he's a runner, he's run like 20 marathons. When he was in his 40s, we went to New York, and they have a race up the Empire State Building. Mm-hmm. It's like 88 flights of stairs. And he ran on purpose. No one was chasing him. Yeah.
He did it for fun.
Yeah, and he got a really good time. Like I want to say around 20 minutes, 21 minutes. I mean, I'm the age that he was then when he did it. I'm not gonna run up the Empire State Building. Are you kidding?
I take the elevator and I'm still out
Yeah.
front, so.
Yes. I don't. But like that's his idea of a good time. He's very athletic. So anyway, still to my point. He people would be nice to him on the phone, but when they saw how old he was in person, they wouldn't hire him. So he ended up dyeing his hair to look younger. So anyway, he had dyed his hair and I didn't know, and I came to visit, and he looked the way he used to look when my brother and I were kids. And yeah, and so there was a half second where like I was just like anxious because he spent a lot of his time angry. And so it wasn't even conscious. I saw his hair, I got nervous, and I'm looking at my brother and I'm like, tell me you didn't get nervous when you saw that hair. And my brother's like, oh, I know, I was wondering if I left a towel on the floor. Like we both saw the hair.
Yeah.
And we kind of did. I mean, I mean, I don't want to compare it to like PTSD of like a war veteran or something, but you know.
You still had those reactions.
Yeah, we saw his hair and we were just like, oh. We're adults now, it's funny. Yeah, and he came over and he's like, what's so funny? Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing at all. Yeah, anyway, sorry. That was kind of far afield.
No, that's good though, because it gives me more of a further background of your family and kind of the dimensions and a little bit more of the personalities, which is really, really helpful for me to better understand you and your needs. I do want to hit more on the education part of your family. You said it was kind of an expectation that your family had, and also both your families are pretty successful in education. Yeah,
I never thought about that, but yeah, I actually, I mean, my brother and I don't have doctorates. I guess we're kind of underachievers compared to my parents, but oh well. Yeah, it was never even a question. My mom was a teacher, my dad was a college professor for a while. It was just, they were really smart about it. Like, I mean, I know they read to us when we were kids, and I mean, I'm a librarian, like, so obviously it wasn't that much of a hard sell for me, but they made it so that, like, we wanted to read, and so our idea of, like, a reward was, like, at the end of the week, if we went to a bookstore or a library and got books, like, that was a treat for us. Like, they made it, you know what I mean? Most kids would be like, they would want ice cream or candy, which, by the way, we couldn't have because my dad was a health nut and an athlete, so we weren't allowed to have sugar. Like, I didn't have my first soda until I was 10, and I was just like, ugh. But anyway.
I totally rejected it.
Yeah, you know, yeah, I was like, what is this horror? But, like, the point, they managed to, I don't want to say brainwash, but, like, they wanted us to like reading, and so they made it so that you know, we liked going to libraries and bookstores, and we were expected to get good grades, and if there was a problem, then, you know, we would have to talk to the teacher, and they were both very strict. Like my mom, she says things like, oh, you guys are so well behaved, I go out and I see these kids now, and I guess I was just lucky, and I guess she's remembering it different because she's in her 70s now. There was no luck. They were very strict. We knew better. We weren't gonna pull any nonsense. No, that wasn't gonna fly. Like, nowadays I'll see parents that are like, oh, do you want to have this or that? And like, we never had those conversations. It was like, we're gonna go in the restaurant, you're gonna order from the kids menu, you're gonna get this or you're gonna get that. And like,
and you're drinking water.
Yeah, or we were gonna share a soda, which, like, you know, like even now if I have my own soda, it's like, yes. But anyway, but yeah, there was no, like, we knew if we tried something that we'd be in big trouble, so of course we were good. But getting back to the education thing, yeah, there was just, they signed us up for like honors classes, so we were expected to take those, and you know, to like read during the summer. My mom was a teacher, and sometimes she taught summer school, or a couple times she was a principal, so she would just, my brother and I, she would just take us along, you know what I mean, while she was working summer school. So yeah, it was never, like, that was just the way.
It was kind of a part of life?
Yeah. Yeah, like I didn't know anything else, and like I mentioned before you turned the camera on, my dad, in the morning he'd always have a newspaper, and he would like push it across the table and like quiz me on what was going on, and like when I was 10, there was a woman running for vice president, and so that was a big deal, and he would talk about that with me, and and so he would like talk about politics to me and stuff, and I guess now it is kind of weird, but that was just how they were. We would go to museums, we would travel and go on trips. We were lucky enough to, of course stuff was cheaper back then, but we were lucky enough to go to Europe a couple times, and
that's pretty impressive, a couple of times.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those, to be fair, it was one of those, like, if it's Tuesday, you're in this country kind of thing, but, like, we got to go, you know?
That still counts, you still gotta experience that culture.
Right, yeah, and, yeah, so they were both very, like, they wanted us to be educated, and that was extremely important to them. And my mom, like, college was never, like, we were gonna go.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me to not go. It was like, what do you mean not go? So, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm just gonna wrap up a little bit more. I'm just gonna ask you like maybe one more question, and then I'll just recap a little bit. So, what would you say is probably the factor that has kept you here at Tarleton? Because you seem to have a very diverse background and a lot of different like stories that really helped you.
Yeah, thanks. Well, honestly, I mean, I really like it at Tarleton. Everyone's really nice here. I mean, I wouldn't mind being somewhere bigger and more diverse, but I really feel like I lucked out coming here because this is the nicest place I've ever been work-wise. Well, first of all, Texas is just a nicer place generally than, I mean, I've only ever lived in California, New York, but, and here, but Texans are much nicer than they are, and I didn't realize that till I moved. Like now when I go back to California and visit, I am just like appalled at the level of customer service. Like, no one wants to hear about my day. What is that? You know what I mean?
Do you have to open your own door?
Yeah, there's no eye contact. Like, if I have to wait, there's no apologies. It's like, you know, the horror. It's awful. And I thought that was normal, but now I'm like, no. And then I lived in San Antonio, and from San Antonio to here, that was like another difference. And at first I thought it was me, but my mom came to visit, and she couldn't believe it either. She was like, they're so nice. I don't know, Mom. I don't know what to tell you.
There's something wrong with it.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I kind of wondered at first. I was like, are they making fun of me?
No.
I didn't understand why everyone was so nice. And like, if you're sick, they'll like ask if they can bring something by. I've never worked at a place. If you were sick, it was like, sucks to be you. I mean, nobody was gonna bring you anything. Of course, it's a smaller place too, but people hold open doors and they're just really polite. And sometimes I'll ask a student to answer a question or do something, and I can tell by their body language that they don't want to do it, but they do it anyway.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll take advantage because I know they're too nice to say no. But yeah, people here are just really nice, and I just feel like it's just spoiled me for anywhere else because like my supervisor's really nice. She knows I don't have family nearby, and so she'll like check on me, and she's really sweet, and I can talk to her about stuff. And I've never worked anywhere like that where people are so nice. It's, yeah.
Well, that's really, really, really good. I'm really glad to hear that. It seems like a healthy work environment, which is good.
Yeah.
I'm just to recap, and then we can go ahead and conclude. So you said that you have a mother, father, a sister, a half-sister, who pursued Judaism with her family.
Yeah, she's in Israel.
And your mom was Puerto Rican. She was raised like in the 60s, where it wasn't pushed to be a woman with education.
Right, she was, I didn't mention it, but her mom was a single mom, so that was kind of a, yeah.
So
and
that's
they didn't
like
have,
a huge...
Yeah, they didn't have a lot of money, so it was like, her mom was very much like, you're going to college, you're going to make something out of yourself, you know, so I think that's where she got the whole, because her mom was like, if you're educated, you'll be independent, you don't have to depend on a man. So my mom was always like, excuse me while I imitate her accent, if you get your education, you'll be independent.
That's good, and it seems like it's passed on, and I feel like you've been successful. I mean, you seem happy.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this interview too.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for meeting with me.
Thanks, yeah.
Yeah, it was really great, and I really enjoyed getting to meet you. Nice meeting you too. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry I got so blabby.